Thought Bubble Audio.
Look, up in the sky!
You will never find the more wretched hive of scum and villainy.
Welcome to Beer with Geeks with Tim and Frank.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
I am Iron Man.
Your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Hi, Christopher. I'm Nero.
My name is Inigo Montoya.
You're a wizard, Harry.
A couple of guys with a couple of beers and a whole lot of pop culture nostalgia.
Make it so, number one.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Beatles.
I named the dog Indiana.
Life finds a way.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now sit back and crack open a cold one, because it's time for Beer with Geeks.
It comes in paints.
Shaken, not stirred.
Great Scott!
I was way off. I knew it started with an S, though.
Hi, and welcome to Beer with Geeks, where two geeks geek out with beer. I'm Tim, and with me, as always, is my quarantined friend Frank. How are you today?
I'm doing all right, man. How are you?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm enjoying a Quarantino. No, I don't know. No, I'm doing okay, Frank. We've been inside for 1,670 days.
Yeah.
And I made friends with all the dust bunnies.
Oh, good.
I'll
Good.
give you their names now. That's Bob and Phyllis and Doris and Amelia and Stephen and Stefan. Don't get them confused.
Sure.
Sure. Anyway, yeah. How are you?
Yeah, fine. Been finding lots of ways to fill the time lately, which I guess we'll get to. But yeah,
That's good.
It's been several weeks here, but we're happy and healthy and safe, and hope that you and obviously all of our listeners are doing the same. But have you been enjoying any good beers while you've been at home?
I have been. Before all of this went down, I went to the grocery store. I went to the liquor store in fear that everything would stop, being open.
Yeah.
And so I was like, well, I better, grab some, pick six. You know what I mean? So I have a random assortment in my fridge that I've been saving basically for every episode.
I have the same, actually.
Oh, that's great. That's great. So mine today is from the Upland Brewing Company in Indiana, Bloomington, Indiana, and it is a Petal to the Kettle. It is a tart beer. It's from their Tart Kettle series. It is ale with rose, hibiscus, and strawberry.
Ooh.
It is so good.
That sounds amazing.
It's so good. And I'm not really one for the tart beers, but I thought in these sour times that I should kind of go for something
Valid.
thematic. I don't know. So yeah, it is so good. It might actually be one of my favorites from the show.
Wow.
We've had a lot of beer on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Some of it has been good and very good. None of it really terrible, to our picking credit, I guess. But this one, this is great. I Petal to the Kettle, the Tart series from Upland Brewing Company. It's so good. Do yourself a favor.
Nice.
It's not so tart that you can't enjoy it.
Interesting. So it's, it's tart. Is it like sort of grapefruity?
It's like fruity tart. Yeah, it's more strawberry than grapefruity.
Okay.
But you know how grapefruit, you kind of go, grapefruit.
Yeah.
It's not like that. It's not like that.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's more like grapefruit.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I like the sound of that very much, Lois. Sorry. I did a similar thing where I went shopping before all this craziness started and did stock up on some beers, and I thought to myself, I'm going to save these for like when things get really real, So I had those like in the back of my fridge. Some of them are actually like I got them at the beginning of March, so they're like winter beers, even some of them. So I'll probably be getting to those relatively soon, but before they're like sort of like totally out of season and I wouldn't enjoy them anymore. Yeah, so like, and then I had the last couple of weeks I've been talking on the show here about how I've been buying a lot of local beers. So a lot of places that are doing like curbside pickup and things like that.
That's right,
and doing like big deals where I got like a 24-pack of stuff from one brewery, and but I decided, well, we're clearly going to be doing this for a while, so it's time to break out the ones that I was saving for a rainy day. And today I'm enjoying. It's just an IPA, but it's from Moon Hill Brewing Company, and it is a Pufnstuf IPA.
Ooh, Pufnstuf.
Pufnstuf.
Oh, I like the name. Better have a puffin on the can.
No, it's got a guy puffing smoke because.
Oh, that makes stuff.
Yeah.
You know what? I accept that too.
Yeah.
If anything, that makes more sense.
Yeah, I guess so. It is like citrusy and kind of a bitter ending, kind of hoppy bitter ending. But it's a pretty light IPA, and it's I like it. It's sort of a West Coast style IPA. But I do think it's from Massachusetts, Moon Hill Brewing. So yeah, good stuff. Good American IPA. I like it a lot. It's very balanced and sort of sweet and subtle. Good stuff.
Oh, I love that. If I'd go out and get some, if
yeah,
you know,
if
only.
Yeah, if only. But we're because of that, because we can't go out and get stuff. We've obviously been home for several weeks now, and thought it would be, it was time to do what every other podcast has been doing, which is talk about how we're spending the time, how we're passing the days.
Oh my gosh, we're such followers, Frank.
We are. We're it's very important that as two East Coast white dudes, you know what we're up to.
That's right.
It's very, very important to us that you know.
It's very important that the two East Coast middle class white guys.
Yes.
That what are you doing to pass the time?
That's right. So yeah, I'm spending a lot of time watching TV. To be perfectly honest with you, it's not all I'm doing, but I am spending quite a bit of time, binge watching stuff and whatnot. Are you doing the same? I assume.
Yeah, a bit. Definitely watching. Able to get through more things that I have been meaning to get through. Actually, truthfully, as we're recording this episode, this past week I had to watch Academy Rewind movies.
Ah, yes.
Because that's still going. You can check us out at academyrewind.com. Everything that I have been binging has been put on pause, so I could watch 12 movies from 1934 for the 1935 Oscars. But I'm actually very much looking forward to getting back into the things that I have been binging, because there's been several things that I've been doing to occupy my time. There's some TV, there's some video games, there's some books, movies, things of that nature, Frank. So, why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I thought we could go back and forth and each, share a recommendation, sort of rotating back and forth. Mm-hmm. One that I'll start off with is a TV show I rewatched. We binge watched the whole thing, all 4 seasons, in just a couple weeks. The Last Man on Earth. This was a show on Fox.
Yeah.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
A lot of people may not remember. I'll just refresh real quickly. It was on Fox around 2015. It started. It starred Will Forte, January Jones, Kristen Schaal, Mary Steenburgen. It was about. It was from Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the guys who produced the Lego Movie and the guys who got kicked off of Solo. And this show was about a viral pandemic that wipes out all of humanity except for 7 people. And it creepily took place in the year 2020. Yeah, weirdly accurate.
It's like that Dean Koontz thing. Have you seen that floating around?
Yeah, I've seen it floating around. I'm not too familiar with it, but I've seen it sort of mentioned.
In a book he wrote in the 80s, he was like, there's some viral infection that is a respiratory illness that will cause mass pandemic in the year 2020.
That's crazy.
And then it'll disappear as quickly as it came and then reemerge in another 10 years or something like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah.
I will say it's a comedy. So it's a sitcom, and it's very funny. Will Forte is just, Will Forte from SNL. He's so great. And this was he created the show. Lord and Miller produced it with him, but he created the show, and he wrote a lot of the overarching story for it. So it's his baby, and it is so freaking funny. It's called The Last Man on Earth because when the show starts, he thinks he's the last man on Earth, and then he gradually starts to meet all these other people. And they form a little community of like the 7 or 8 of them, form a little, like, they try to restart society. Really funny. You've got a diverse cast of very funny people who have all these different quirks, and it's sort of it's got sort of the workplace comedy sort of aspect to it, where it's like all these different people who are quirky and trying to get along, but they sort of become a family over time.
It's not a single cam comedy, is it?
It is. Yeah,
it's a single. It's a single cam.
Yeah, it's single cam. Yeah. It's not like multi-cam or anything. Yeah, it's just
that's hilarious.
Yeah. It's very funny. It's like mostly shot like on location, like out in outdoors and stuff. And I really have enjoyed it a lot. It's actually funny when you were talking about naming the dust bunnies. He does something very similar to that carries throughout the show. It starts back when he thinks he's alone, and so he like names all these different. He takes a cue from Castaway, and he starts naming all these different sports balls. And when I say sports balls, I mean different. Like he's got a soccer ball and a basketball and a football, and all, and he draws faces on them and names them. And he has conversations with them, and it's really funny. It starts at the beginning when he's alone, but it sort of carries whenever he is feeling down. He like talks to his ball friends.
That's funny.
It's great. It's a great show. And it is. It may be a little triggering at the beginning because it's so similar to what's happening, but it really does. It is sort of uplifting, and it shows like how even in the worst of times things can come back from the brink. And it's great. It's very silly. But also heartwarming a lot of times. I really enjoyed it. It just took us a couple of weeks. They're 20 minutes without commercials, and it's all on Hulu. So
how many seasons?
4 seasons.
4 seasons.
4 seasons.
That was all longer than I thought it was.
Yeah. It went through like 2018. I guess it was like 2018. I guess before it got canceled, unfortunately. I would have loved to see where they would have gone with it after that, but
I know
it's very much worth the watch. I'll put a link to the Hulu if anybody wants to watch it on Hulu. It's great. So
very
Last
important
Man on Earth
question.
Yes.
Does it resolve? Shows that get canceled sometimes don't resolve.
It doesn't, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
Yeah, they had plans for a season 5, and it does sort of cliffhang at the end, which is a real bummer. But and that bothers a lot of people to the point where they don't want to start something if it doesn't have a resolving ending. And I get that. I feel that about a lot of things. This one is so fun though that I think it's worth it. That's my 2 cents.
Okay. All right. Well, that's good. That's good. I remember when it popped on, and I was like, "Oh, I should watch that," and I never did. But I didn't know it was on Hulu, so maybe I will go back to that.
Yeah, give it a shot. If a few episodes into season 1, when the rest of the cast starts popping up, if you're not feeling it by like episode 4 or 5 or something, give it like 2 hours or 3 hours of viewing time. And if you're not into it, then maybe it's not for you. But I would recommend it. It's a lot of fun.
Cool.
What's your first recommendation?
My first recommendation is My Hero Academia, which is an anime, which is not normally my go-to, but it's nice. This had been
not my usual, but nice.
This had been recommended to me several times over the course of a few years, and so finally I was like, you know what? I'll give it a couple episodes. They're only 20 minutes, and they move quick. I've been told they move quickly, so I'll try it. And it is mind-blowingly enjoying.
Wow.
It is so fun. It's basically a love letter to like all superheroes all together all the same time. And so it's about this kid who called Midoriya, and he was like, the world has superpowers. That's kind of like the setup where like 80% of the population has superpowers, and all he wants to do is be like one of the best, like elite, like all of these other guys. And he doesn't have superpowers, and that's like, but he learned, like, he's one of the 20% that doesn't get it, and he's heartbroken. But stuff happens in which, like, the world's greatest, there's a little bit of a spoiler here, but the world's greatest superhero, All Might, he's basically the Superman of the world. He's got like that super strength, flight, like all of that kind of
all the powers, like
all the powers kind of going for him. And so his power is called One for All. And he basically gifts it to somebody else. Like, he can only use it for so long, and so like he got it from somebody else, and now he's giving it to this kid, so he's training him how to become the next Superman. Basically,
I see. He can pass it on.
Right? Yeah, that's why All for One. Yeah, All for One, One for All. So the bad version of it is All for One, where you can take the powers, and so this is the one where he can give the powers.
I see.
And, but he goes to superhero school. Basically, it's like the X-Men.
So that's why it's My Hero Academia.
Right. They are literally going to school to learn how to be superheroes. And so you have that like school drama plus the League of Villains plus this plus that, and it's just so fun. And the animation is incredible, and the uniqueness of the powers is sometimes like extraordinary. It's just so cool the way that they think about using powers. Not even like, because there's like little ones like, like I can shoot fire from my hands, right? So that's normal, but how it works is like limited to these presets, and like what do you do with them, and how do you move with that knowing you can do it, and like if you use it too much you can get hurt, and what does that look like, and it's very cool. And so I don't want to give too much away because there are like twists and stuff that come along with it, but it flies by.
Wow.
Like they just finished their 4th season just like a couple weeks ago, I think, if not even sooner than that. And like it spends whole arcs in like one room during one situation. There's like 5 episodes that just one fight.
Oh wow!
Like,
okay, so really arcs. Okay,
it's like they really stretch out the timeline. Like you're going into, I'm in the middle of season 3 right now, and I think it's barely been a year.
Okay,
like in this kid's life.
So is it like comic book pacing in that sense, where it's like each episode is almost like the next issue of the comic?
Yep. Exactly. It's exactly like comic book pacing, where like that whole arc is just that one big fight.
Right,
that you watched happen.
Okay, I like that. I mean, I've been enjoying that with like the Clone Wars recently, where it's sort of like each arc is like almost like a trade paperback, like another story, another installment in the larger story. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Where can you watch this? Is it Crunchyroll, Netflix?
Hulu, actually.
All right on.
So yeah, you can watch it on Hulu. You can watch it on Crunchyroll, I think, and Funimation, but it's on Hulu, and the dubbed and the subtitled are both on Hulu. I've been watching the dubbed.
Dubbed and subbed.
The voice acting is great. It's really fun. Yeah, and they play with superhero tropes, like when All Might, the superhero guy, is like in his superhero way of being. He's like, aha, I'm here, and my hands are on my hips, and I'm this, and everyone like, but it's not corny. Everyone just loves him for it. Like, it's the best thing ever.
Nice. Okay, right on. I'm going to throw that in the show notes as well, so folks can watch that. Is it like a I was saying about Last Man on Earth, that like maybe give it a couple episodes, see where if you like it. Is it a similar like give it a little bit of a ramp up time, or does it kind of jump right into it?
Yeah, the first couple of episodes, the main kid Midoriya, he cries a lot.
Okay.
Just because he's upset he doesn't have powers, and then he's like, he's training and it's tough, and he's crying and all that stuff. But I'd say give it 3 or 4 episodes.
Okay, that's fair.
And then you're pretty much in it. But it's anime, so everyone's emotions are at a 10 at all times. Like, that's just kind of the default setting, where it's like when you're angry, you are going to blow up the world, right? That's just kind of the way that this particular type of anime rolls. So once you get used to it, like, it doesn't take the amount of energy it requires to watch it. But
I see.
Yeah, but I would definitely check it out. There's a guy who gets stronger by like the muscles, like muscle literally growing on the outside of his body. So think like Bane getting bigger from Venom, but instead of Venom, it's like his own muscle that wraps around himself on the outside.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they get weird. It's like some powers you wouldn't see like a Western comic because they're
Right.
too weird. It's almost like something that only Grant Morrison would come up with.
Yes.
Yeah, like
the
this
totally
guy
wacky
dispenses
off the
tape out of his elbows. and
Yeah,
he can swing
yeah.
like from like Spider-Man. It's kind of like that.
That is very Grant Morrison, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
And I do enjoy that kind of stuff. So that's that sounds like a lot of fun. All right, I just threw that in the show notes so folks can watch that, dubbed or subbed. All right, nice. My next pick is I have been rewatching all of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And
oh, solid.
Oh man, am I enjoying the hell out of it again?
Yeah.
It is so freaking good. We wrapped up a rewatch of The Office and we were like, oh, I want something else, and we watched a bunch of Parks and Rec, and we were like, I want something else from that Mike Schur sensibility. And yeah, we picked Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and we're in, I think technically we did start it before the quarantine, but we've been really, tearing through it now, and so we're in season 4 of that, and or 5 even, I think. And man, is this show so good. It's such a fun, I was saying to Marissa the other day, I think it's one of my favorite groups of characters from any of these Mike Schur shows, from among The Office or Parks and Rec or The Good Place. I think Brooklyn Nine-Nine is one of my favorite groups of characters because of what a family they are, and what a how they all have each other's backs and they kind of grow together.
Yep. They're all kind of in it to win it,
Yeah.
as opposed to The Office, where Phyllis is kind of there, but she's not part of the fam same way.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The later seasons of The Office, they become more of an ensemble once Michael is gone.
Yep.
So you get a little bit more of that. Not quite the same though, because someone like Phyllis is still sort of a background character, or Creed, right? Certainly a background character, but in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, they're sort of all main characters in a way, and they all have a story. They all grow, and they help each other grow. There's so the premise is it's a police precinct in Brooklyn, and it's sort of a wacky buddy cop sort of show, I guess you would call it. But it's wacky but heartwarming. It's silly but tackles meaningful things. You have issues of acceptance where there's a couple of homosexual characters but it's just part of the show. It's part of the fabric of the show. It's not really called out or made in your face. It's just what would it be like if the world was just sort of a nicer place.
Yeah, I think if you like those shows like The Office or 30 Rock or Parks and Rec, it's like that. It's all in the vein of A Day at the Office.
Yeah,
with a camera crew, but there's an optimism to Brooklyn Nine-Nine that doesn't exist. They all have their own little pocket, there's a tone. They all have their own tones.
Yes.
And I think Brooklyn Nine-Nine is optimism. I think that's really yeah,
it's just about a bunch of people who love each other and work together and become better for knowing each other, and they always have each other's backs, and it's very optimistic. It's very sweet, and it's very fun. And it got canceled by Fox, but then NBC picked it back up, and they've been running for a couple seasons since then. So it is on Hulu as well. But it's such a fun and funny show, and this is our third time watching it all the way through, and it's
good,
so rewarding every time. Yeah.
Apparently, this episode is sponsored by Hulu.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, because my I was gonna have last night. My wife and I watched Under the Tuscan Sun, which was on Hulu. So would recommend. It was very good. I enjoyed it. I was going to say this is we talked about this on the show already, but to pick up from Hit Me With Your Best Shot, I'm about halfway through Picard.
Oh, good.
So so I would be finished if I didn't have Academy Rewind episodes to watch. But it is great.
Right?
We're not kidding. Wow, it is spectacular.
It's so fantastic.
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely one. And this is something we've talked about on the show before as well, but I've been replaying the Arkham games.
Oh, right on.
Because I never got a chance to play video games, and I was like, I want to play them. Why not? And They really are great. They're spectacularly good, all three of them. Well, actually, I say 4 because I really like Arkham Origins too, but I skipped that one just so I can play the main 3. I might play Origins afterwards, but I forgot how much fun they are and how much I love being Batman. Just like that was kind of my big takeaway. And to Arkham Knight, you get to I'm playing in the 1989 Batman suit, like so I'm wearing like the Michael Keaton skin, and it's fun to watch Michael Keaton just beating the crap out, like moving the way he could never move in the movies, like his neck and stuff.
Right, yeah. Being able to just turn his head.
Yeah, it's that's fun for him. And the Batmobile has the 66 skin on it, so it looks like the big armored one, but it's got outlined in red, and it's got the Adam West like red bat
That's
symbol
cool. I
on
love
it in
that.
different places. So I'm having a blast. But like I said, there was an episode of Beer with Geeks where I just like ran, like I think I told you the whole story.
You did. You ran me through that. You did a Hit Me With Your Best Shot, I think it was, and you took me through the entire storyline of the 2 or 3 games that were out at that point.
Yeah, that's man, good stuff. And it's funny. I think I did that, and I apparently there was a whole like scheme of missions that I had missed the first time.
Oh,
like there's a whole Mr. Freeze story that I like didn't even know about, which is like he's there and Nora dethaws by accident, and he's like, and then like the Arkham Knights people take her, and he's like, you gotta save her, and then she's like talking to him, she's like, no, I want to die, like, you know, you can't make this decision for me. And so like it was like heartbreaking, and yeah, didn't know that happened. So anyway, there's that. Frank, have you been reading anything or
Yeah, I did pick up. This is not really nerdy per se. Well, it's nerdy in a certain sense, but I did pick up a volume of short stories by Flannery O'Connor.
That is nerdy, Frank.
Yeah, it's nerdy in its own way. It is a sort of spiritually nerdy. They're philosophical stories with sort of spiritual overtones. They're not pointedly. It's not about like Jesus went out one day. They're stories about everyday people. She was writing in the early mid 20th century. Yep, and she's fantastic. She's like a very well respected author,
I teach Flannery O'Connor in my AP class.
Right on. So the book that I picked up was called "A Good Man Is Hard to Find," and other short stories.
I love a good. I have that book, Frank. Yeah. I have that exact one. A Good Man Is Hard to Find is the one that I teach.
The specific story you teach, or the whole book.
That specific story.
Nice.
A Good Man is Hard to Find.
Yeah. So it's got
grandmother is the worst, Frank.
Oh my God! Right?
She's the worst.
She's the worst. So it's sort of they're really not in your face. Like you really have to read it carefully with that lens to understand the like spiritual aspect to it, right? Otherwise, it would seem they're almost like written like HBO shows are written today, where it's you need to bring your own lens to it and do the analysis to see the point of view that the writer is trying to give you. So it's not overt, and it's not like in your face, and it's not, if it's something that's not really your normal cup of tea, it's not going to be off-putting in that way, I think.
It requires some thinking.
Yes, they're thinkers for sure. So that's what I've been reading as of late. Yeah. I'll also recommend a YouTube channel that I've been enjoying a lot of, and this is called FilmJoy. FilmJoy does some really, really good reviews and more analysis of films. It's really, really smart stuff that's going to like make you think and be like, whoa, I never thought about this in that way. The most recent video, so they do a lot of different things on their channel. My favorite series they have going is called Movies with Mikey. This guy named Mikey does these amazing. I love his analysis of movies, and he recently did one on the Star Trek movies, the original cast movies.
The stories of Star Trek's Miraculous Resurrection.
That's the one.
Is that
It's the one. It's a
the story of
two-parter.
Star Trek movies with Mikey. I found it. Yep. Okay.
Yep. It's a two-parter, and it's so good. They're long, like they're 20 minutes, half hour, sometimes up to an hour. But the Star Trek one is the most recent one. Something that just a little nugget that made me think was that in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, it's all about how Kirk is like trying to get back to normal and trying to like. He's trying to get back to his ship and be in charge again, and like he wants his old life back, and that's exactly what Gene Roddenberry was going through at that time, where like he hadn't been able to do Star Trek in almost 10 years, and he was just trying to get back to being in charge. And some of the reasons why that Star Trek: The Motion Picture wasn't that great was because Gene Roddenberry had arguably too much control. And so it's funny because it's like, oh, Gene Roddenberry was writing Kirk as a proxy for himself. And the analysis that Mikey does there and breaks it down is really, really awesome. So FilmJoy is awesome. I love the movies with Mikey stuff in particular, and I highly, highly recommend that. So I will also throw that in the show notes if you want to check that out. Also, his Force Awakens review and all of his like Star Wars sequel trilogy reviews are top notch and really, really make you think. If you don't really like the sequels a lot, I would recommend watching the movies with Mikey stuff because he's critical of them, but points out some nuggets that I haven't heard in any other breakdowns in like Star Wars podcasts, to which I listen to many of them. He does a great job breaking this stuff down.
I'm gonna watch though. That
you would like
as right up my alley.
Yeah, as like a film student, I think you would enjoy it because he takes a very like serious approach to it and treats all this stuff like really, really seriously and academically in a lot of ways. But not an off-putting way of like, oh, this is too highbrow for me. Like it'll just make you appreciate movies more. I love his stuff. So movies with Mikey.
Yeah, I'm on board for that. I'm going to check that out. Lastly, I think before we wrap up, I'm just going to say I've been reading some comics finally.
Yay!
I've been like catching up. So I want a couple of things that I've been reading. If you want to hear what I've been reading. If you wanted the prose that I've been reading, the actual fiction, you can head over to Read Up, the podcast Read Up, which I go through every time I read a book. I talk about it. Sometimes it's really short. Sometimes I have a guest and it's really long. So
I'm throwing readuppodcast.com in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Do I have a website? I didn't even know that. It shows you how much I go there, but I'm sure I have one. I've been reading the Batman Knightfall arc, so like Azrael and Bane and all that. So I read the first volume, halfway through the second volume right now. And then on stuff that's coming out now, I caught up on Hawkman by Robert Venditti, which is excellent. If you love Indiana Jones and time travel, then that is what you want to look for. It's so good. Plus, Brian Hitch does the art in the first 12 issues, and it is beautiful. It's beautiful. I caught up on Brian Tomasi's Detective Comics run, which is also very good right now. He does a whole Mr. Freeze arc. I talked about Mr. Freeze earlier in here, and introduces the Arkham Knight to the DC Comics universe proper. I read the third part in the Batman Ninja Turtles crossover. Which are they're okay. I always think they're just okay. Some of the character moments are really good, but like James Tynion is wordy. He is so wordy.
Oh yes.
And I just like, and sometimes he's not, and sometimes you're just like, oh my gosh, like just like let the art tell the story. Take a note from Tom King's book, please. But that actually will not dampen the fact that I caught up on Justice League Dark, which is awesome. It's so good. It's such a weird, eclectic combo for a Justice League. It's Wonder Woman and Swamp Thing and Detective Chimp and Zatanna and sometimes Constantine and Man-Bat, and it's just a cool book. Dr. Fate is in there. Madame Xanadu. Eclipso showed up in one arc, and he was actually like scary, and it's not afraid to go to some dark places, and
as the name suggests.
Indeed, and I like it because Wonder Woman is the leader of the group, but she's also, like, even though she comes from, like, this world of magic and gods and stuff, she doesn't really get it, so she's kind of a good entry character at the same time. And I also caught up on Young Justice, Brian Michael Bendis.
Nice.
Which which is good. It's not great. It's like I'm not sure what it is about it that I'm not like totally connecting with, but I do enjoy it. I am liking it because I like Bendis and I like the art a lot, but there's just it's like a missing. Maybe it. I don't know. It's missing some kind of heart, which is unusual for Bendis. Yeah, but I am still enjoying it. But yeah, that's and then I've got God knows how many other more books to read.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. The Rise of Kylo Ren is also very good, but I have one issue left. Yeah. But anyway, Frank, I think we're over time, so we should kind of wrap this party up.
Yeah, because Lord knows we have places to be and things to do and people to see, right?
Anyway, Frank, where can the people find us?
People can find us anywhere podcasts are found, be that Apple Podcasts or Spotify or Stitcher, really any podcast app you like. And, we don't mention this a lot, but if you don't use any of those apps, you can still just subscribe to us through any podcast app whatsoever. You go to beerwithgeeks.com. There's a little link that says RSS, and you can just pop that into any podcast player that lets you subscribe to RSS feeds, which is all podcast players. So Dogcatcher or whatever you use, you can find us there if you don't already find us in their directory. So you can do that. Beerwithgeeks.com, beerwithgeeks@gmail.com, @beerwithgeeks on Twitter, and I think those are big. ThoughtBubbleAudio.com is where the network is, and you can find all of our shows like Read Up, where Tim talks about books intellectually and stuff. And you can also support us at patreon.com/ThoughtBubbleAudio. Obviously, these are trying times, and not everyone has disposable income, and we totally understand that. But if you do, and if you enjoy what we do and you appreciate what we do, a couple bucks, maybe $1 a month would be awesome to help us keep doing this, keep the lights on. So thank you very much to all of you who already do that. Everything we mentioned today is in the show notes. I was trying to keep up with you there at the end with all the comics. I think I got them all. So everything is in the show notes if you wanted to catch a link to anything we mentioned and check it out for yourself. So please be sure to do that. If you don't already get the show notes in your podcast player, go to beerwithgeeks.com and click on this episode, and you'll find them all listed there. So that's my little plug.
That's a good plug, Frank. This was also a good conversation. So until next time, cheers.
Cheers.